September 10th marked World Suicide Prevention Day. The impacts of suicide can send ripples of pain through family, friends, and communities. Here with me to talk about breaking the silence and encouraging open conversations is mental health professional Calissa Ngozi. Calissa, this is such a sensitive topic, isn't it?
It is. It really is. Not a lot of people like to talk about it.
Now, World Suicide Prevention Day was September the 10th. Where are we with it all?
Well, to be honest, we have a long way to go. I think shattering the stigma is super important, but like you said, it is a hard conversation to have with people. It's really touchy, it's personal, and everyone's experience is different.
Something we don't see a lot of is it on the front page of newspapers, and there was an article in the Standard. Is this a positive move forward?
I think so, because what we're saying is nobody really wants to talk about suicide, but the rates are rising and rising, especially since the pandemic. So now news cycles are picking it up and saying, okay, we're going to be okay with talking about it, shattering the stigma, and maybe giving people resources.
You know, I was on the World Health Organization website before our interview, and they state that, and I quote, "Suicide is a major public health challenge." Are they using the right word, challenge?
Absolutely, because it is a challenge. Everybody faces challenges differently, but I think talking about the language, working on the language is an important piece in understanding why it's happening and hopefully having the tools and expertise to help mitigate those risks.
Now, early before the interview, we were chatting, and the word committed in committed suicide, we're not using that anymore.
No, that's old language, right?
Wow. Because
when committed murder, right? Committed treason. Now we're treating it as if it is a crime, and years ago, suicide was like seen as a crime. It's not. It's something that's happened. It's unfortunate. Nobody likes to deal with it and talk about it. But the language that we now use is either died by suicide or completed suicide.
Now, it affects the family the most, and how can families recognize the signs? What are the signs?
Well, see, the problem is that it's hard to recognize signs because everyone is different. And I think all family members, friends, coworkers, they go through the stages of grief. They become upset, they become angry, there's resentment, there's sadness. And, you know, I think them understanding that there is nothing that they could have done to prevent it. Once someone has made that decision that they want to end their life, there's no turning back. And a lot of times if we look at celebrities that have completed suicide, Robin Williams is a great example. Nobody in his circle recognized that there was that pain inside of him, right? Because a lot of times it's the ones that shine their light the brightest that need the most help.
One of my coworkers once said about Robin Williams, you know, we always saw him at his high. He was always laughing and making us laugh, and we never saw him at his lows. What can families do if they do recognize that there is an issue? Where do they go? How do they help that person?
Well, I think first and foremost is talk to that person. Ask them how they're doing. Check in with them. Because again, we as family units don't always check in with one another. Because if it's not an outward expression of being upset or angry or going through some form of crisis, then we're just going to assume that everything is okay. The next step is to reach out to local resources. So if it's a youth that's struggling, here in Niagara, we have Pathstone Mental Health. So there's a 24/7 crisis line that parents and youth are able to call for assistance. There's a distress center in Niagara as well. And for adults, there's Coast. So there are a lot of resources to reach out and say, either I personally am not okay, or I know somebody in my circle or my life that is struggling.
World Suicide Prevention Day was established in 2003. How much work still has to be done?
Well, that was 21 years ago. I mean, it seems like it was just yesterday, but that's a long time. And I think that we need to start by labeling that, yes, suicide happens. Yes, it's a problem. But what are we doing to help these people through these dark times? Do we have enough resources? Is the government pouring enough money into mental health services and recognition beyond just one day a year?
I'm going to ask you to repeat those resources one more time for our audience.
So we have Pathstone Mental Health. We have the Distress Center in Niagara, and then we also have Coast.
Calissa, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.